for a great memory with a At 10 years old, Bart is the eldest child and only son of Homer and Marge Simpson, the brother of Maggie. After the rebelliousness and disrespect for authority, Bart's most iconic traits include shorts, actor on the road, don't have a talent. Bart simply Bart is my favorite in the Simpsons. participants in family. They were the characters after neighbors because also for the rebellious son, he chose the name Bart instead of his own name. As he met, quote, overall in a HPHP, quote. Bart's initial change is in the law, created characters like until he was Chase who were the named after their creator, according to the local court, simply died to life. The style of the name Joker. Bart was conceived as ring to your quote, a much milder triple G, and existential things applied to himself, end quote. The character was changed to Nancy Cartwright's racing. His credited as inspirations for the character. His older brother, Mark Grading, influenced Bart's rebellious attitude. Mark to find comics like Label Silver with a strong and all of which were sources of inspiration for Matt. Bart was envisioned as an exaggerated version of the typical misbehaving child, combining the extreme traits of characters like Thomas and Nathan. What was not to make the sons of Eddie Haddy and Becky got inside the show? He also noted movies and played represent Dennis Dennis, which inspired him to create a character who was genuinely malicious. Bart first appeared alongside the Simpson family on an 1987 introduced on the show Short Fortnite. In 1989, the short was developed into the sequence of the half-hour series of the Fox Broadcasting Company. Bart and the same family became central characters. The section contains an image with the caption Matt Grading, pictured in 2009, conceived in March in 1987. Section 2.22 Design. The Simpson family was designed so to be easily recognized as alias. The characters were initially clearly drawn as extremely submitted rough sketches to the animators, expecting them to refine their designs. Instead, the animators simply translated his original drawings. Bart's early designs are featured in the first short and right here despite the very least. This was originated by his design of 9 DVD side-to-sides. At the time premium primarily worked in black and white, and without considering the eventual use of blur design, Bart's spikes to appear as an extension of his head. Left to Bart, these design features are replicated in other characters, although some background characters in the very few cases share his spikes very Bart's head is described by the writer Mark Carlin, and this head is basically taken in a shape measured by the Caucasian. Similarly, Homer's head is taken on top of fingers are used to define the heads of Bart, just like his name. In the season 25 episode, Trials of Horror 6 Bart alongside Lauren was rendered as an animation character for the first time in the 5 seconds of the episode. The computer animation was provided by Pacific Secret Images. When designing the 3D character, the animators did not know how to shape Bart's hair. They realized that their environment Bart was essentially to use these models. This section contains a image with the caption Bart's first televised appearance here tonight. Section 2.3 Voice. Bart's voice is presented by Nancy Cartwright, who also voices several other child characters on The Simpsons, including Nelson Muntz, Ralph Wiggum, Todd Flanders, and Kieran H. After David Hasselman and Julie Cameron cast as Homer and Marge respectively, due to their existence as the Tracy Ullman show, the producers held on to hands for the closing Bart to be seen. Lee Smith initially auditioned for Bart and casting director Benito Piazza, but felt her voice was too high-pitched. Reflecting on the experience, Smith recalled his multiple times he sounded too much like a girl, and really two lines as Bart's but it makes sense as things for coming comic, end quote. She was subsequently cast as Lisa instead. On March 13th, into roles on shows like My Little Pony, Squirtle, and Puppets. Cartwright describes Bart's voice as easy to perform, stating, quote, "Some characters take a little bit more effort at the rest of the draw, whatever it is technique, but Bart is easy to do. I can just hit into that everything, quote. To provide variety, she usually records 5 or 6 takes of each line, allowing producers more confidence to work with. Even in Flash Forward episodes, Cartwright continues to use Bart's part, for example, in some cases like season 6 and season 5. Bart's voice was electronically pitched lower from his age. Despite Bart's widespread fame, Cartwright is self-recognized in public. She is recognized as Bart's voice was from children she declined, and slowly getting, quote, "food out." During the first season of The Simpsons, Fox Network prohibited Cartwright from giving interviews to a photo of Bart was voiced as Cartwright was initially paid $30,000 per episode for her work on The Simpsons season 1998. That year, a Pages Channel host during which Fox Network replaced the 6 main voice actors and keeping Indian for very new casting. The conflict was ultimately resolved, although Cartwright's salary increased to $125,000 per episode. In 2011, the voice cast put forth their wages, seeking $360,000 per episode. After every argument of the dispute was settled, Cartwright's pay was raised to $350,000 per episode. In 2008, further negotiation increased the cast's salary by approximately $400,000 per episode. However, in 2011, Fox demanded production cost reductions, but indicates that the shares and costs were not cut. Cartwright and the other main customers took the improvement paradigm, lowering the per episode earnings to just over $300,000. By 2016, Cartwright was paid $315,000 per episode, which worked to Variety made her one of the highest paid voice actors at the time. The section contains one word, with the caption, "Can it be the Cartwright and Charles as a voices Bart?" Section 2.44, Hallmarks. In the opening sequence of many episodes of The Simpsons, the camera zooms in on Springfield Elementary School, where Bart is shown writing lines on a chalkboard on a recurring feature known as the chalkboard gag. During every episode, the messages often include political humor such as the First Amendment is not covered nothing, pop culture references that I can't see dead people, and meta-commentary such as "I am not a 32-year-old woman," or "Nobody likes these anymore." The animators can create any gags, and sometimes adjust them to reflect current events. For example, in the episode Homer Clarence, season 4, working with 92, chalkboard gag read that an outline of New Orleans. This is an apology for the controversial song in the previous week's episode on the Bart described the city as a, I quote, "home of pirates, drunks, and whores." In Bart's character is a great close to the lieutenant, where he has another voices back from a fictitious person and tagging a name while we're trying to find that person, eventually realizing he's already responding to angry threats. Bart was the caller. These calls were inspired by the Bar Report, a series of prank calls owner Louis Deutsch, whose perfect reaction influenced Ray's prank calls was appeared in the episode Courthouse in season 1 of 1990. The third episode disappeared. Over time, it became increasingly difficult for the writers to create a fake name and most substantive responses. The Ray's phased out as a regular feature in the season. However, they have occasionally resurfaced in later episodes. The catchphrase "These are shorts" originated as an ad lib Cartwright never entered the show's Shirley Table Remix, inspired by an incident from her high school years. While performing with the marching band at the Fairmont High School, they wrote pants and jeans and shorts instead of their usual gear, Fairmont West or Fairmont West. This phrase may also reference the breakfast system, while the character John Connor uses it against the principal friend. Bart's other notable catchphrases include the former was inspired by a Portuguese voice project, while the latter were popularized by originated from the British phrase "getting racist." Both were prominently featured on the show's early seasons. attention to one caption. Bart's new sleep in the Simpsons movie. Section 2.5. Personality. Bart's disregard for authority has drawn comparisons to America's founding father. He's been likened to a modern version of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. In his book, Dan Simpson, Chris Turner characterizes Bart as a nihilist, embracing the philosophical view that life lacks inherent meaning, purpose, or value. Bart's rebellious nature makes him a disruptive student at Springfield Elementary School, where he proudly identifies as an underachiever. He frequently conflicts with his teachers, Miss Crabapple and Principal Skinner. Bart openly acknowledges poor performance at school, constantly quote, "I am dumb, okay, and was a host. Think I'm happy about it?" End quote. Bart's thoughts are often illogical and absurd. He once believed that if he reincarnated as a butterfly, he could burn the school down without suspicion, imagining him in a hole in the gas can as a butterfly. In another instance, he thought writing his name in wet cement would leave people wondering how he in heart Brothers of Helper, season 11, Helper 1999, reveals Bart has attention deficit disorder. His intelligence may be impacted hereditary certain gene, which affects the males in the family. Despite his behavior and selfish tendencies, Bart shows moments of integrity and compassion. He has usually helped Miss Crabapple and Principal Skinner. Bart's mischievous nature and Homer's negligent and inefficient behavior create a turbulent, volatile, and abusive relationship between the two. Bart frequently calls Homer by his first name, by the dad, and Homer often refers to him dismissively as the boy. Homer's short temper often leads to cartoonishly violent outbursts, such as impulsively strangling Bart when enraged. Marge, in contrast, is a more caring, understanding, and nurturing parent, though she also acknowledges Bart as a handful and is often embarrassed by his end. In the episode Marge Proud, season 7 from 1995, Marge struggles with balancing her parenting style after Bart is caught in chocolate. Initially, she becomes more distant to avoid overcovering, which causes Bart to feel guilty and try to make amends. Despite Bart's rebellious attitude, he occasionally endures humiliation to please his mother. Marge frequently defends Bart, showing an understanding of his complexities. She once described him as her special little guy, saying, quote, "I know Bart can be a handful, but I also know what his life is like. He's got a spark. It's not a bad thing, of course. It makes him make bad things." This paragraph contains a full quote from Nancy Cartwright. The quote is as follows. Bart's a really boy. He's just mischievous. He's not bad, like characters who follow him, such as Barrett Cartman from South Park or BBC Hutto. Bart can do suggestive things, but they seem so tame by today's standard. What was shocking 19 years ago when the show started isn't the least bit shocking today. Bart hasn't changed. End quote. Bart shares a similar memory with his younger sister Lisa. While Bart and Lisa often dispute, sometimes physically, they share a deep bond of care for one another. Bart apologizes to the ghost and recognizes Lisa's superior intellect, frequently seeking her advice by solve problems. Bart is portrayed as a popular cool kid at school and has many friends. His close believe Milhouse and Houghton. Bart's influence on Milhouse is often negative, leading the pair to have relationship. In Hard Defined, season 3, 1991, Milhouse's brother forbids him from playing with Bart due to his bad influence, a situation that initially shows Bart pays until he realizes that when she values their friendship. Marge ultimately convinces Mrs. Van Houten to reconsider. Bart is a devoted fan of the children's television House of the Clown. He once proclaimed, quote, "I based my whole life on Krusty's teaching, end quote, and in a room filled with Krusty merchandise." Over the years, Bart has aided Krusty on multiple occasions. He promoted sideshow bombs attempted to frame Krusty for armed robbery, and Krusty gets busted in season 1, 1990. Reuniting Krusty with his estranged father-like clown, and helping Krusty relaunch his career with a comeback special, and Krusty gets canceled. Bart's initial confrontation with Sideshow Bob and Krusty busted sparked a long battle. The writers helped Bob as an intelligent, obsessive antagonist, drawing inspiration from the dynamic Wile E. Coyote and the Lone Brother. Section 3, Perception. Section 3.1, Bart Mania. In 1990, Bart became one of television's most popular characters, sparking a cultural phenomenon referred to as Bart Mania. Bart became the most prominent character featured Some American public schools to ban t-shirts with captions such as "I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you?" and "Underachiever" and "Proud of it, man." One t-shirt with the latter caption has been enshrined in the National Museum of American History. The popularity of Simpsons merchandise was a significant commercial success, generating $1 million in revenue within the first 14 months of sales. That Bart's widespread appeal also inspired a private market of contract merchandise, particularly t-shirts. These items featured Bart with various slogans and redesigns, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Bart, Air Simpson Bart, and Rasta Bart. While Groening generally tolerated bootleg merchandise, he objected to a series of Nazi Bart shirts that depicted Bart in Nazi uniforms or as a white skinhead. In response, 20th Century Fox, the creator of these offensive designs, who ultimately agreed to cease production. Bart was described as television's king of 1990 television's brightest star and an undiminished match. In the United States congressional, senatorial, and gubernatorial elections of 1990, Bart was one of the most popular running candidates, and in many areas was only to make his mouth sound on fictional characters. In the 1990 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Bart made his debut as one of the giant helium-filled balloons for which the parade is known. This was referenced in The Simpsons and the episode Bart vs. Thanksgiving, which aired near the same day as the parade, where Homer tells Bart, quote, "If you turn to a good balloon for every flash in the pan cartoon character, you turn the terrain into a fart." End quote. Meanwhile, Bart did not know on the television monthly shows and Bart's balloons. The album, The Simpsons Singing City, was released in September 1990 and was a success. It hit three Billboard 200, becoming certified 2 times platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America. The first single from the album was the pop rap song "Do the Bart Back," performed by Nancy Cartwright and released on November 20th, 1990. The song was written by Lauren, a friend of Michael Jackson, and the latter recorded backing vocals on the track. Jackson was a fan of The Simpsons, especially Bart, and had spontaneously called the producers offering to write Bart as well as they do a guest spot on the show. Jackson eventually guest starred in the episode Start Raving Dad from season 3 in 1991 under the pseudonym John Jake Smith. While Bartman was never officially released as a single in the United States, it was successful in the United Kingdom. In 1991, it was the #1 song in the UK for 3 weeks, from February 16th to March 9th, and was the 7th best-selling song of the year. It sold 500,000 copies and was certified gold by the British Photographic Industry on February 1st, 1991. This section contains one image with the caption, "Michael Jackson, pictured in 1984, provided backing vocals to the Bartman." Section point 2, cultural influence, perception, and commendations. Bart has been described as one of the most iconic television characters of the 1990s and is considered an American cultural icon. In 1990, the Entertainment Weekly named him Entertainer of the Year, writing that, quote, "Bart has proved to be a rebel who's also a good kid, a terror who's easily terrorized, and a flake who astonishes us and himself with serious ways of fortitude." In 1998, Time magazine included Bart in its list of the 100 most important people in the 20th century, making him the only fictional character to receive the award. Bart had previously been featured on the cover of the December 31st, 1990 issue of the magazine. In 1996, Bart was named 48th on TV Guide's list of the 50 greatest TV stars of all time. In 2002, both he and Lisa were jointly ranked number 11 on the publication's top 50 greatest cartoon characters of all time. In 2022, Page Writer called Bart the 26th greatest cartoon character of all time. From Entertainment News, Bart has received mostly positive reviews. In 2020, Screen Rant Stansky praised Bart as the best character, calling him relatable and believing that, quote, "everyone can relate to at least some element of his personality," end quote. Darren King of Vulture did a 2024 review called Bart a, quote, "back-talking, troublemaking, prank-calling, cherry-bomb-detonating, and yes, graffiti-tagging cartoon creation, who was, at the time, fast becoming a cultural icon," end quote. The 2023 review from Collider said that Bart gets that was a, quote, "turning point for the show. Shows that Bart guarding more than just a punchline, paving the way for future episodes that fleshed out his claustrophobia, which won the award in 1997. In 1995, Cartwright was honored with an annual award for voice acting that killed animation for her work as Bart. In 2000, Bart and the rest of the Simpsons family recognized with the star of our Hollywood Walk of Fame, located at 7021 Hollywood Boulevard. This section contains one image with the caption, "The Simpsons has been the star of our Hollywood Walk of Fame." Section 3.3, negative influence on children. Bart's rebellious nature, often accompanied by lack of consequences for his actions, led his parents, educators, and conservative groups to view him as a negative influence on children. Critics argue that Bart's behavior made him a poor role model, with Robert Bianco of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette describing him as a character who, quote, with his parents and out-toxicity. In short, he's the child we wish we bang and fear our children will become, end quote. Educators expressed concern that Bart's achiever and proud of it, and in this day, the education most stakeholder threat to learning, end quote. Others labeled him as, quote, egotistic, aggressive, and mean-spirited, end quote. In response to such criticisms, producers James L. defended the character, stating, quote, "I'm very worried or television where everybody is needs to be a role model. You don't run across that many role models in your life. Why should television be full of you?" End quote. And in 1990, William Bennett, then the U.S. drug czar, visited a drug center in Pittsburgh and commented on a poster of Bart asking, quote, "You guys aren't watching The Simpsons, are you? That's not going to help me." End quote. After facing backlash, Bennett apologized, clarifying that he was just kidding, and adding, "I'll sit down with a little spunk head. We'll straighten this thing out." End quote. In a 1991 interview, Bill Cosby criticized Bart as a poor role model, describing him as an angry, confused, and frustrated. He responded by saying, quote, "That's something Bart will right. Most people are in a struggle to be normal. He thinks normal is very boring and does things others just wish to be dirty." End quote. In 1992, then President George H.W. Bush stated, quote, "We are going to keep on trying to structure the American family to make American families a lot more like wealthy and a lot less like The Simpsons." As quote. In response, the show's writer quickly produced a short segment that aired 3 days later before a rerun of Starring Dad. In it, Bart humorously replied, "Hey, we're just like the Waltons. We're running and depression too." End quote. Section 3.4, merchandise. In addition to t-shirts, Bart has been featured in a wide range of The Simpsons-related merchandise, including dolls, napkins, air fresh cups, chewy gum, beach towels, sleeping bags, boots, rubber scotch balls, license plate frames, scratch paper, laminated magnets, and handheld ball games. 2 books have been published of Bart Simpson's Back to Life, published in 1993, and Bart Book, published in 2004. Both of which were authored primarily by Graham. The Simpsons has philosophy, The Doe of Homer, published in 2001, which is not an official publication, includes a chapter analyzing Bart's character and comparing him to the DG in 1990. Bart is spread across various media related to The Simpsons. He is featured in most of the Simpsons videos, such as Bart vs. the World, Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, Bart vs. the Space Vegans, Bart's House of Weirdness, and The Simpsons Game. In addition to the television series, Bart is a recurring character in the Congo comics distributed Simpsons comics, which debuted in November 1993 and continued to be published until October 2018. He also headlined his own comic book series, which was distributed by Bongo Comics between 2000 and 2016. Bars to become a spokesperson for Cello, suggesting a commercial in which Bart would say Jello and quote the letter L, promoting the belief kids were trying to mimic the idea he ultimately rejected. On April 9th, 2009, the United States Postal Service introduced a series of 5 44 cents which informed and other members of its business manual. These tapes were the first time Americans aside Sesame Street was still in production. Assigned to a grading, the stamps became available for purchase on May 7th, 2009. There are offices available in the written form of